Welcome back to Exposure Stories. The story presents a powerful portrait of how parenthood can completely transform a person's priorities, values, and understanding of success. For years, Simon Cowell was known around the world as a television personality whose reputation was built on confidence, sharp criticism, and an unwavering focus on achievement. His career revolved around discovering talent, creating entertainment, and building a business empire that placed him at the center of global popular culture. To many observers, he appeared to be someone whose life was defined by ambition and professional accomplishment. Yet the arrival of his son introduced a new dimension to his life, one that could not be measured by ratings, contracts, or public recognition. The story suggests that becoming a father forced him to reevaluate everything he once considered important and to confront challenges that no amount of fame or financial success could solve. One of the most striking aspects of this narrative is the way it highlights the contrast between public image and private reality. The world often saw Simon as a larger-than-life celebrity who seemed completely comfortable in the spotlight. Behind that image, however, was a father experiencing the same fears, uncertainties, and hopes that countless parents face when they become concerned about their child's development. The story emphasizes how easy it is for the public to make assumptions about famous individuals without understanding what may be happening behind closed doors. While audiences focused on television appearances and media headlines, Simon's attention was increasingly centered on understanding his son and ensuring that he received whatever support he needed. This contrast serves as a reminder that personal struggles often exist beneath even the most successful public personas. The narrative also explores an important reality about parenting, the uncertainty that comes when expectations do not align with reality. Most parents enter parenthood with certain assumptions about the future. They imagine milestones, conversations, shared experiences, and predictable paths of growth. When a child develops differently than expected, those assumptions can be challenged. The story portrays Simon's journey as one of adaptation rather than disappointment. Instead of focusing on what his son might not do, he gradually learns to appreciate and celebrate who his son actually is. That shift in perspective is perhaps one of the most meaningful themes in the entire account. It demonstrates that love often requires parents to let go of preconceived expectations and embrace the unique qualities of their children. Another compelling aspect of the story is the emphasis on observation and understanding. Rather than portraying change as something that happened overnight, the narrative describes a gradual process of noticing small differences, asking questions, and seeking answers. Many parents can relate to the experience of watching their children closely and wondering whether certain behaviors are simply individual traits or signs of something deeper. The story captures the emotional complexity of that process. It shows how concern can coexist with admiration, how uncertainty can exist alongside hope, and how love can motivate a parent to search tirelessly for understanding. In this sense, the narrative reflects a universal parental experience, even though it is centered on a highly recognizable public figure. The discussion of diagnosis serves as a pivotal turning point in the story. Rather than presenting a diagnosis as an ending, the narrative frames it as the beginning of a new phase of understanding. This is an important distinction because diagnoses often carry different meanings for different families. For some, they provide answers to questions that have lingered for years. For others, they bring concerns about future challenges. In the story, the diagnosis appears to serve both functions simultaneously. It confirms that Simon's concerns were not imagined, while also giving him a clearer framework through which to understand his son's experiences. Most importantly, it encourages a shift away from trying to change the child and toward creating environments and supports that allow the child to thrive. The account also raises meaningful questions about how society views developmental differences. Throughout the narrative, there is a recurring theme of misunderstanding. The public, media, and even well-meaning observers are often portrayed as interpreting behaviors through incomplete or inaccurate assumptions. This reflects a broader societal challenge. Many people still rely on outdated stereotypes when discussing neurodiversity and developmental conditions. The story suggests that greater understanding comes not from judgment but from education, empathy, and a willingness to see individuals as complete human beings rather than collections of symptoms or labels. By emphasizing Eric's strengths alongside his challenges, the narrative encourages a more balanced and respectful perspective. One of the most emotional elements of the story is the idea of redefining success. Simon's professional life had long been built around competition, achievement, and measurable outcomes. Success could be quantified through ratings, record sales, audience numbers, and financial growth. Fatherhood introduced a different standard. Progress was no longer measured in headlines or business deals, but in small moments of connection, communication, and growth. A new word spoken, a new skill learned, or a moment of shared understanding carried more emotional significance than many of the accomplishments that had previously defined his career. This transformation highlights a truth that many parents eventually discover: some of life's most meaningful victories are invisible to everyone except the people directly involved. The narrative also emphasizes the importance of advocacy and protection. Once public attention shifted toward Eric, Simon faced a difficult balancing act. On one hand, openness had the potential to educate others and help families facing similar experiences. On the other hand, increased visibility risked exposing his son to scrutiny and misunderstanding. This tension reflects a challenge faced by many parents of children with additional needs. They often want to raise awareness while simultaneously preserving their child's privacy and dignity. The story portrays Simon as constantly navigating this delicate balance, attempting to use his influence constructively without allowing his son's personal life to become a source of public entertainment. Another notable theme is resilience. The story repeatedly demonstrates that adaptation is not a single decision but an ongoing process. Every new stage of childhood brings different challenges and opportunities. Routines must be adjusted, expectations reconsidered, and support systems refined. Rather than presenting this as a burden, the narrative frames it as an expression of commitment and love. Simon's willingness to restructure his lifestyle, alter his professional commitments, and invest time in understanding his son's needs reflects the sacrifices many parents make every day. What makes the story particularly compelling is that these sacrifices are shown not as acts of obligation but as choices rooted in genuine devotion. The portrayal of communication is equally significant. Throughout the narrative, there is an emphasis on the idea that meaningful relationships do not always depend on traditional forms of interaction. Simon learns to recognize expressions, gestures, routines, and behaviors as forms of communication. This broader understanding challenges conventional assumptions about how connection should look. It suggests that relationships can be deep and fulfilling even when they differ from societal expectations. By learning to communicate on Eric's terms, Simon develops a bond that is portrayed as unique, meaningful, and deeply rewarding. The story also serves as a reminder that growth often occurs in unexpected ways. While much attention is placed on Eric's development, Simon himself undergoes a transformation. He becomes more patient, more reflective, and more empathetic. Experiences that once seemed insignificant take on new meaning. Priorities shift. Perspectives broaden. The challenges associated with parenting ultimately become catalysts for personal growth. In this sense, the narrative is not solely about a child navigating the world differently, it is also about a father learning how to see the world differently. Ultimately, the most powerful message in the story is that love is not dependent on expectations being fulfilled. True parental love adapts. It evolves. It learns. Rather than trying to force a child into a predetermined mold, it seeks to understand who that child truly is. The narrative suggests that Simon's greatest achievement may not be found in television, music, or business, but in his willingness to embrace a journey he never anticipated. By setting aside assumptions and focusing on understanding, support, and acceptance, he discovers a version of fatherhood that is different from what he once imagined but no less meaningful. The story leaves readers with an important reflection. The most profound transformations often occur not when life goes according to plan, but when people find the strength to embrace a new path with compassion, patience, and unconditional love. Thanks for watching. If you like the video, please subscribe to our YouTube channel.